Hi, my name is Amy Rahe. I'm the Managing Director of External Relations for the Freedom Fund, and I do this work because I believe everyone has the right to live a life in liberation and a life of dignity.
I am Daniel Melese. I am the country representative for the Freedom Fund in Ethiopia. I do this work for a brighter future for vulnerable women and children.
So the Freedom Fund is a collaborative fund that works to end modern slavery. So we see our why as being this issue needs to end. And what we know and what we believe in is that frontline and grassroots organizations are the ones best suited and best placed to deal with and to address the issue. We also know that grassroots organizations typically don't have access to large pools of funding and specifically don't have access to international donors who are really interested in the issue, but also don't know how to connect with grassroots organizations. Essentially, what we do is identify and invest in those organizations in high prevalence areas who are doing work around a specific form of modern slavery. And that could be forced labor in the Thai fishing sector, commercial sexual exploitation of children in Brazil, agricultural bonded labor in Nepal. But we invest in them both financially and through support in scaling and coming together and collaborating. We support 5 to 20 different organizations in the same area so that they can come together and have even greater impact. The core of our model is a hotspot model. We're funding clusters of organizations so that they come together, collaborate with one another, and create a shared strategy to address that particular form of slavery. And it spans types and countries, and we support them in having communities of practice so that they can have that time to learn from one another.
As part of our model, we tend to reduce competition and facilitate collaboration among our partners. Some of our partners were initially resistant to collaboration, but at the end of the day, they came to see the value. So once we identify these grassroots organizations, we help them discuss to identify areas of strengths within the organizations, and they prioritize them. And then we support them to fulfill those areas of strengths that they have identified. So as Freedom Fund, we have a rigorous due diligence process, but we are very much flexible. Yes, we have the process and system in place. We also trust our staff on the ground, on their knowledge and expertise on the ground. So we just try to collaborate this together and make a decision.
So we have a fund called the Survivor Leadership Fund, which is trust-based gifts to survivor-led organizations around the world, generally focused in 3 countries at a time, and they're $20,000 gifts. And we've been doing this for about 2 years. And in this process, we've been reviewing, are we doing it the right way? How are we deciding on these folks? We're bringing in and asking people who we know who are in the area what they know, because it's very minimal due diligence, unlike what we're doing in hotspots where we have more due diligence. We're trying to make this as accessible as possible, but also knowing that we don't fully understand context. So there's a conversation, and there's been some tests at bringing in some of the folks that we have already funded through the Survivor Leadership Fund to support us and to support the decision-making, or to be the decision makers for who we give the next round of funding to help us review the process. We're also on this journey of thinking more about what does participatory decision-making look like? How do we actually start to learn more?
When structures are responding to the issue, then we count that as one system change happening at the higher level. In Ethiopia, we have been on the ground since 2015. So from stop migration to there is no slavery in Ethiopia, we have now reached drafting at least 4 different proclamations, and our comprehensive migration policy is at the final stage. There is a structure which is led by the Deputy Prime Minister, and we as a Freedom Fund and our partners are also part of the partnership coalition. There are protection groups, prevention groups, and the prosecution groups. In all of this, we have a say, we have a space to bring back what's happening on the ground to those policymakers. So once we get that political will, then policies will be ratified, then structure will be in place. Even in a very fragile political system, we will be able to operate.
There's a lot of interesting conversation happening around trust-based giving, around participatory decision-making, around giving to organizations where it's about lived experience, but it doesn't often translate into practices being changed. And so one of the things that I think we benefit from being a collaborative fund is flexibility. It's quite different because we've tried to remove as many barriers to access the funding as possible. The primary burden of labor for the application process is actually on us, as opposed to it being the other way around, which I think oftentimes when you're applying for funding, the burden of labor is almost always on the person writing their proposal. So we translate everything. We do as minimal due diligence as we can possibly get away with. And then the reporting is actually just asking in 6 months, what have you done with the money? Can you send in a voice note, a video, a report, an email, a text, what you've decided to do? What I hear oftentimes from philanthropists is, it sounds nice, trust-based sounds nice, but we have to do this because people are gonna spend irresponsibly. And that idea, that notion that people don't know how to spend money who are running grassroots organizations is pretty ludicrous. These are people who have started organizations, have been working in organizations because of sheer passion and will. 9.8 times out of 10, they're gonna invest the money smartly. I wish people understood the huge value add and the amount of impact that they could achieve if they supported collaboration, either through investment in collaborative funds or also through learning how to go on their own journey of supporting partners. The amount of impact that's possible through bringing people together, the amount of impact that's possible when you pool resources.
The issues that we are dealing with is very complex. So for us, collaboration is not an option, it's a mandatory. So partners need to come together if they are thinking of bringing a lasting change, if they are thinking of disrupting a system that's holding slavery to exist. The impact is so quick, it's scalable, and it's also owned by the community. We have tried it, we have seen it. So from ground experience, if they really want to make a change which is sustainable, I think the place to invest is collaborative fund.
We had a big win last summer with the partners that we support in Nepal. So in Southeast Nepal, it's been legal for a particular group of folks called the Harwa Charwa to be in bonded labor. They live on a small piece of land with landlords. They're in debt to those landlords. They work for free, but there was nothing illegal about the practice. There was nothing illegal about them not being paid cash. There was nothing illegal about children not having access to school. There was nothing illegal about some of the punishments that would happen. And so last year, after a few years of strong advocacy from the communities, the Prime Minister announced their legal liberation. It's huge. It's over 100,000 people being liberated. And I went to Nepal last November and we were sitting with the women in the community. And I just remember asking them, what's your greatest hope now that this has happened? And across the board, overwhelmingly, it was, I want my kids to be able to go to school, to become doctors, to become lawyers, to do the things that I couldn't dream about. Legal liberation is the first step, but there's so much more that has to happen. But it now creates hope, and hope can sustain people for a very long time and can support people into the next journeys of life.